Hi, everyone. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for a webinar on AP Psych and the Myers textbooks. I am so thankful that you would take time out of your summer to join this webinar. And I don't want to spend a whole lot of time going through housekeeping items, but I do need to tell you just a few things. First of all, I guess I should tell you who I am. I'm Janie Pierce-Broucher. I'm the marketing manager for AP Psychology at BFW Publishers. We also have on the call Kelly Knoll. She is the marketing assistant. We have Ann Heath, Christine Bruni, and Heidi Baumeder, who are in editorial. And then we have our esteemed panelists who really need no introduction. Before I turn it over to them, however, I am going to let you know that we have muted all of you. And so with so many people on the line, with 91 people on the line, I'm afraid a lot of white noise and background noise would seep in. So if you have a question as we go, please put your questions into the question panel at the right. I'm guessing yours is at the right. You within GoToWebinar, you have a question panel. You can also ask questions in chat, but we prefer any questions that you want asked, answered by the panelists to go into the questions window so that we can be sure that we answer all of them. And if we can't get to everything, then we can extract that as a spreadsheet and answer them as well. Okay. I mentioned our panelists really don't need any introduction. We have Dr. Dave Myers and Dr. Nathan DeWall, our student edition textbook authors, which you all know and love, I'm sure, as much as I do. And then Dr. Liz is our teacher edition author. And so, Dave, I am going to turn this over to you now.
Okay, so I also want to thank you all for joining this AP Psychology webinar, and we want to start off by acknowledging that there are some nerves out there as to how the new course and exam description is going to impact both your teaching and your student exam results. And so we're here to explain what's up and to ease your worries and to assure you that everything's going to be okay. So let's start by just introducing ourselves. I'm Dave Myers, speaking to you from my Hope College office. I'm delighted to be with you today because I've come to appreciate AP teachers. And I've done so from my speaking at an AP reading, from speaking to AP workshops, including the AP Teaching Summit, and next month to a workshop out at Oregon State. From my support of APA's TOPS, Teachers of Psychology in Secondary Schools organization, and especially from being blessed with all the wonderful emails and letters that have come my way from AP teachers and students. And I want to confess one other thing, and it's sort of a nightmare occurrence. It's never happened to me before. In all my decades, I've been a person with serious hearing loss, and that is both my hearing aid batteries went out within the last 5 minutes, and my briefcase that has my backup supply is at home. So I may have trouble hearing you. I've got my volume absolutely blasting my ear, but that's just part of who I am, and you may experience that part of who I am tonight.
All right. My name is Nathan DeWall, and I am a psychology professor here at the University of Kentucky. I taught my first psychology class at the college level 15 years ago, and I've been here at the University of Kentucky for 12 years. And I teach all different types of courses: introductory psychology, basic and advanced research methods, social psychology, seminars for undergraduate students, and also PhD students. I'm also the editor of Teaching Current Directions in Psychological Science, which is published on an almost monthly basis by the largest scientific psychological association in the world, which is the Association for Psychological Science. Now, Dave and I started this column 6 years ago, and we have been pleasantly surprised at the interest that people have in understanding how to take cutting edge research and bringing it into the classroom. And for the past 7 years, I've worked with Dave as his co-author and successor, publishing 7 books, including AP Psychology, the 3rd edition. Both my parents were public school teachers, My mother was an elementary music teacher. My dad was a high school music teacher. And so high school teachers are near and dear to my heart. I've, this is played out in my involvement as with Dave, my involvement speaking to high school teachers at the city level, at state and regional conferences, and later this year at the national conference in Austin. And so I'm really glad to be here to get to know you a little bit and to answer any questions you might have. So Liz.
Thanks. So my name's Liz Hammer, and I'm just going to say from the beginning, I've got some kind of the sun going on in my window, so I might move around a little bit. But I am talking to you from my office in hot and steamy New Orleans, and I'm the director for the Center for the Advancement of Teaching at Xavier University of Louisiana, and I'm also a Kellogg professor in teaching in the psych department, and I regularly teach intro, research methods, health psych, and human sexuality. And I have a long history with the AP psychology. I began reading in Maryland in 1998, and I'm a past chief reader. And I have just, the relationships I made with high school teachers at the reading just enhanced my professional development so much. I hope I have some friends on the line. I was also a co-leader of the skills strand at the APA Summit on High School Psychology Education. And I do have to say, it was an honor working with Dave and Nathan as the author of the teacher's edition of the most recent edition of the Myers text. And yes, it is just as delightful working with them as you would think.
And we are very excited to have you, Liz, as I think you know. So tonight we're going to outline for you first how specifically the AP Psych course and exam description has changed. Then second, how, if you wish, you can realign your course to match the new course and exam description. And then third, we want to show you that regardless of the textbook that you're using, we've got you covered. We have all the content needed to ensure cohesion with the new course and exam description, and all the content you need to help your students realize success on the exam. So briefly, here's how the course has changed. The new 2009 description has changed from 14 units to 9 units. That's the big deal, but we think it's not too big a deal. These 9 units outline required content and skills, and they define how the content will be assessed on the exam. The College Board is also offering new personal progress checks, which are unit-based, multiple choice, and free response question assessment questions. And if you decide you want to use this new assessment, then you'll want to teach in the organization of the new course design. And we'll outline them for that for you shortly. Otherwise, most of the content topic expectations are the same. Hypnosis is no longer required, so you're free to skip module 22, make that an enrichment module if you want. And as we show here, we did a little count. The College Board gives 353 examples of content to be taught that could be tested on. And we did a little check and found that our text covers 99% of these. There's a very close correspondence between the book and the exam. That continues to be the case. And so, indeed, we've got you covered. And now Liz is going to walk us through some of the changes.
We really want to emphasize to you that the exam itself is not changing. The timing and the number of the questions on the exam is going to be exactly the same. There's still going to be 100 multiple choice questions, and the students will have 70 minutes to answer them. And it will still have 2 free response questions that will be answered in 50 minutes. One question will be an application of concepts, and the other one will involve research design, and both will be worth 7 points. But other than that, the exam is remaining exactly the same. So Nathan, I'm going to turn it over to you.
All right. So, like all of you, I'm also an instructor. And so I want you, we want, to be sensitive to questions that you might ask yourself as you approach teaching. And so when you're deciding how this updated course exam description will impact your specific teaching, we suggest that you ask yourself the following questions. The first of which is, am I satisfied with my students' AP scores? And if the answer is yes, then you don't need to change anything. If the answer is no, well, then you could reorganize your course structure to follow the new curriculum format so that you can use the personal progress checks. So that's the first question that we suggest that you just ask yourself. The second question is, am I confident in and comfortable with my current pacing in the order of presentation? And again, not to sound like a broken record here, but if you're satisfied with what you're doing, then again, you don't need to change anything. But if you aren't, then you might consider reorganizing your structure to follow the new curriculum format so that you can align your course with this specified pacing. And Liz is going to talk later about how you can specifically pace your course with our text using the new CF Next. So the third question that you might ask yourself is, do I want to use these, the College Board's new personal progress checks? And if you would rather not do that, then you don't need to change anything. If you do want to do that, well, we have something that can show you in a very easy way how to do that, because we have correlation guides that will match our text content with the new 9 units CEF. And so those are things that we just encourage you to think about as you are planning your course and how to sort of reflect upon your teaching specifically. All right.
Okay, so let's take a look at the big picture here in this table. The white columns on the left show the topical outline that has been in place for many years, and you are familiar with the course that was organized into 14 units, each with a suggested weight representing the percentage of questions on the exam that are likely to come from that unit. In the middle, now blue column, you see the new AP psychology structure, and the number of units has just been reduced from 14 to 9. And this has been accomplished by combining multiple units into one unit in a number of areas. For example, the new Unit 1 combines the previous Units 1 and 2. However, note that in most cases, the weight of the questions on the exam remains constant from the older course structure to the new course structure. And then if you continue across the table, you see that third tannish column. That's the AP Myers third edition unit structure that can similarly be merged to reflect the new AP course framework. Okay, so the bottom line when you look at this is the content's the same. It's just that the 14 units have now been jammed into 9 units with some minor reshuffling. And I hope seeing it in this big picture context can ease some worries that you might have. But that said, let's walk through the book unit by unit to see how this is accomplished. As noted, College Board combined the first 2 areas in the topic outline to become a new Unit 1, Scientific Foundations of Psychology. And that content correlates directly to Myers Unit 1 and 2. If you are following the new organization, we recommend that you teach modules 1 through 8 in order and spend a total of 12 days teaching this content, and then assign Personal Progress Check 1. Okay. In addition to all the topics and examples listed on the new course framework, sorry about that. All the topics and examples listed in the course framework are covered in the book, except for the term bimodal distribution. And so Nathan and Dave have created a handout on this term in case you want to add it to your course. And I think Nathan's going to be talking about the handouts in a little bit. Okay, College Board new Unit 2, Biological Basis of Behavior. This is primarily concerned with the content that's presented in AP Myers Unit 3 with the addition of topics from Unit 5 on states of consciousness. So here's, again, another blending. And as noted previously, the content from Module 22 on hypnosis will not be included in the AP exam. You may choose to teach it if time permits. So we recommend that you teach the modules in these 2 units in order, beginning with 9 through 15, and then continuing with 23 through 25, adding the optional 22 if desired. Covering this content can be challenging for students, as you know, so it'll take about 16 days. And when you've done that, you can assign Personal Progress Check 2. College Board's new Unit 3 on sensation perception aligns directly with AP Myers Unit 4. So we recommend that you just continue following the pacing guide in our teacher's edition, and which suggests devoting 9 days to this material. And then when you've done that, you can assign Personal Progress Check 3. Okay. Similarly, College Board's new Unit 4, Learning, aligns directly with AP Myers Unit 6. So we recommend you spend 9 days on this material and then assign Personal Progress Check 4 after completing modules 26 through 30. Okay, the new Unit 5, Cognitive Psychology, aligns with Myers Unit 7 and Unit 11. So this is a robust unit, and so we recommend you devote 18 days to this content, and then after teaching modules 31 through 36 and 60 through 64, you can assign Personal Progress Check 5. And although the concept of metacognition is addressed throughout these modules, it's not formally defined as a term. So again, the authors have created a handout so that you can add this term. So by now, you should be getting a feel how this is working, right? There's either a direct alignment from the Myers book, or we're just taking 2 units and combining them. But let's keep going. Okay, College Board's new Unit 6, Developmental Psychology, aligns directly with AP Myers Unit 9. Simply teach the modules in order from Module 45 to 54, and then assign Personal Progress Check 6. And we recommend 10 days to cover this material completely. College Board's new Unit 7, Motivation, Emotion, and Personality, aligns with the content covered in AP Myers Unit 8 and 10. So as with some earlier units, the most effective way to ensure that all topics listed in the course framework are covered effectively is to begin with Myers Unit 8, modules 37 through 44, and then continuing with modules 55 through 59 in Unit 10. And once you've done that, you're ready for Personal Progress Check 7. Now, the example of Levine's motivational conflicts theory that is mentioned in the course framework is going to be found in one of our new handouts. So this is another long unit. We recommend 16 days to cover it. All right. The new Unit 8, Clinical Psychology, covers the content found in Units 12 and 13. In addition to teaching modules 65 through 69 and 70 through 73 in that order, we suggest you also refer back to module 25 for coverage of tolerance, addiction, and substance use disorder. And you also may want to use the handout that Nathan and Dave created that defines the term neurodevelopmental disorders. We recommend that you devote 15 days to this content before assigning Personal Progress Check 8. And finally, the last new unit, Unit 9, Social Psychology, aligns directly with Myers Unit 14, Social Psychology. There are 2 examples from the new course framework that are not referenced in the text, and so handouts will be available for them. We recommend spending 10 days on this unit before assigning Personal Progress Check 9, and then beginning to review for the AP Psych exam. And it's just a quick aside, all 3 of us are social psychologists, so that one's kind of near and dear. Okay, so I'm going to turn it over to Nathan now to talk about the handouts they created.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Liz. And that was a joyous ride through an entire school year. It felt like of an AP course, and it gets me excited to teach again in the fall. But I just want to talk a little bit about the handouts that Dave and I have created. Now, again, our text currently matches, 99% of the topics included in the updated CED. However, to ensure 100% cohesion with the updated CED, Dave and I have created handouts for the very few topics that aren't directly addressed in the text. So for example, distributions for research methods, this is the new Unit 1, metacognition for cognition in new Unit 5, Lewine's motivational conflicts theory for motivation, emotion, and stress. This is new Unit 7. And in abnormal behavior, this is new unit 8. We have a new handout for neurodevelopmental disorders and neurocognitive disorders. In social psychology, we have 2. This is a new unit 9. The first is the elaboration likelihood model, and you know, as I was writing this, we noticed that we actually had we had the content there. We just didn't have the words elaboration likelihood model, and so we talk about persuasion and Rich Petty and the late John Cacioppo, and how the importance of peripheral route persuasion and central route to persuasion. We just didn't use the actual name elaboration likelihood model. And so we created a new handout to help out with that. And we also created a new handout to deal with the prisoner's dilemma. So certain concepts like metacognition, developmental neurocognitive disorders are really already covered at some length throughout the text. But because we haven't used that specific terminology mentioned in the CED, and because we wanted you to have access to everything that you might need in one place, we've created handouts for these areas. Okay, and that's it from me.
Okay, so you remember the new curriculum framework not only outlines the required content, it also outlines some required skills. And there are 3 skill categories that are covered here. The first is concept understanding, which covers define, explain, and apply concepts, behaviors, theories, and perspectives. There's also data analysis, which is analyzing and interpreting quantitative data, and then scientific investigation, which is analyzing psychological research studies. You can cover these skills really in almost any unit, but we've listed some units here that are more obviously linked with some skills over others. But note that on the exam, the skills categories are going to be assessed in both the multiple choice and the free response. And the multiple choice questions, they will be weighted by skill category, and free response questions will be specified by skill category. So you'll want to kind of attend to that as well. So I'm going to turn it back over to Dave.
So to wrap things up, I first want to tell you that all the correlation documents and handouts will be available on the website that you see in red letters here, as well as on Launchpad. And you'll receive a link to these in a follow-up email that Janie's going to send to all those who registered for today. Second, I want to remind you of what we think is today's bottom line. We've got you covered. The changes aren't major. You could choose to organize your course according to the new units or not. Either way, we've got the exam content covered, and we've got materials to support you. And finally, I want to tip my hat to each of you for your teaching of this life-relevant course to so many students. It's a privilege for you, and what a privilege and honor for the 3 of us to be able to assist your teaching. We thank you for that. And so please know we always enjoy hearing from you. And now we can hear from you right now, if you'd like, with any questions or comments you might like to pose.
Okay, yes, we have a lot of questions coming in. Some of the questions we've been able to answer. Some of the questions we've been able to answer, so I'm not going to go over the ones that we could answer, but I do have a question for you guys. So we have a new teacher that asked, as a new teacher, what order suggestion do you suggest? Do you suggest following the book or following the course framework? And I can see arguments for both. So what do you guys think?
Liz, do you want to take that one on as sort of master teacher of teachers? Nathan and I would have our own thoughts too.
I'm thinking kind of framework, right, Liz?
Yeah, if I were doing this brand new from the beginning and didn't have the course organized, I would follow the course framework. It's going to make it easier for you in the long run, and because you can really take the units from the book and teach the modules in order. It's just rearranging some units. It's not a big deal. I would stick with the framework.
I would just echo what Liz says, that it's not a big deal, the order in which you teach the material, because it's all the same material that's covered on the exam. And so that's somewhat a matter of personal choice. And what Nathan and I have, our way we've organized it in the text is a pretty typical way of unfolding the topics as they build on one another, but they can be done in any particular order. I remember my friend Jim Moss, who used to teach the biggest psych class in America at Cornell University, started with the end of the book, social psychology. And okay, why not?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I always start with memory.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, that's one of the, I would just agree with what both Liz and Dave said, where if I had never taught it before, I would probably begin with 9 units. And keeping in mind that it's mostly an organizational choice, and it's not really a content choice because the content's there.
Right.
And so that's how I would think of it. Now, at the same time, you know, just for the attendees who might think differently, in my personal teaching, I often find a lot of benefits to breaking the material up into shorter units. And so when I teach at the college level, I use a version of our text that has more than 50 modules in it. And I find that the students really appreciate that instead of just 16 large chapters. So there are lots of different ways to do it. And I think that's one of the coolest things about teaching is within some limits, it's what makes the most sense to you in terms of how you can best serve your students. And so that's how I would do it.
I'm sorry, I know we need to get off this question, but I want to add one other thing to that.
Go ahead. This feeds into another question, so you go ahead.
Is the other benefit, if you're brand new and not taught it any other way before, going with that is then you can use those personal progress checks, which I imagine as a brand new teacher would give you really helpful formative feedback for your teaching of the content for the AP exam.
Exactly. Right. And so I think, so this is a course that I work in a lot of different courses in social studies, and this is a course, really the only course, because the others are histories and maybe a little bit of econ is taught out of order, but psych is often taught out of order. And so we had a question that I think just speaks to the unique nature of psychology, and that is, are the PPCs going to allow you to test out of order? Do the PPCs out of order? My answer is that we don't know yet. So Liz, is that your answer too? We don't know yet.
Yes, I think we don't know yet. I think it's going to be how they get developed. So they might be developed kind of as going along, where you might not have later ones right away, or it could be that they're all going to come there. But you know, within the PPC, they will be contained to whatever content's going to be in that unit. But as far as how they're going to be released, I can't speak to that.
Right. So that is something that we're definitely watching and wanting to see how they when they release that, how that's going to work. So someone also asked. Go ahead, Ann.
And just to add that the College Board has announced that they're supposed to be released on August 1st. Our understanding from other disciplines as well is that writers were told when they were developing PPCs that which is a formative assessment. They're designing it as a formative assessment, that the writers could refer to information from previous units when they were writing the questions. Whether or not that is done that way remains to be seen, but it would be prudent to look closely at the PPCs in August, before you make a firm decision, if you feel that you are going to be required or desire to use the PPCs.
Right. And so that answers another question that was asked as well. Are the PPCs formative or summative? Our understanding is they are formative. These PPCs are formative. And our understanding is also that you guys are going to get access either, I don't know if you'll get access to the answers exactly as the answers come in from students, or if you'll just get a dashboard. Our understanding is that you'll have a dashboard of the responses. So that is another question of, how you guys are going to have access to that. All of this is wrapped up in what College Board releases August 1st, and we haven't seen it either.
But I do think they will be tagged by skill and by content area to really, look at that closely formatively.
Right, exactly. Exactly. So, okay. So, let me ask this question. Do the days recommended for each unit include a testing day or only content days? Also, how many minutes is your quote day per unit based on? So just a rough idea of, are you including an assessment day in there, Liz?
Oh, I would like to be able to answer that well and with authority. And I actually had Anne, you want to add to that, because I actually
Sure.
worked with a high school teacher to do the pacing guides.
Yeah, or Heidi could jump in as well. Yeah, actually, what we use is a small College Board's new structure is built on 140 days, an assumption of 140 days for a year-long course. Our pacing guide is built on fewer days. And so I think ours is built on like 121 days or something like that, because we know you got snow days or assembly days or a million things that interfere with class time. When you look at the detailed material, yeah, there's an assumption that there's an exam day in there in those pacing guides, so that's built in there. But there's also time left for a good 2-week review, AP exam review at the end of class, or for assembly days, snow days, et cetera, et cetera. So our schedule assumes a little more time left over at the end to do pure AP prep exam, since we know a lot of teachers like to take that last week or so to do that.
And
it was based on a 45-minute schedule, basically, regular standard 45, 50-minute class.
And this triggers a little unrelated observation. I occasionally have explained to college professors that AP Psych is every bit as much as a college psych course, and if anything more. Think about this. Your average college class meets 3 times a week for 15 or 16 weeks. That's maybe 45 to 48 class hours. Ann was just talking about 140 class hours is your typical year of teaching AP Psych, and you've got exactly the same content, because this is a college level class with all the exact same bibliography that's in the university college text. So don't ever think for a minute that there's something less than excellent about the level at which you're teaching psychological science.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, exactly. Liz, or Heidi, could we scroll back and show the percentages? Oh, the questions are coming in so fast, I'm having trouble. The percentages from each of the 9 units on the AP exam.
It would be that big picture slide, yeah, right there.
Right. So there we go. Also, do we know if the scoring guides will there be scoring guides with the PPCs and student samples? This I don't know.
Scoring guides.
I've not heard anything about that.
I think College Board is going to score them, right, and provide the responses in a dashboard. So I don't know if they'll have a scoring guide also. If anyone is on the call and knows.
We're not College Board, right? So we're learning along. Basically, as publishers, we have no inside information per se from what College Board's doing, other than what they share with us, so that we can build materials in advance. So we're kind of in the same boat. We'll see a lot more when they're released.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I'm not going to lie though. So we have someone on the call who seems to know some things. So the personal progress checks are set up to go along with the new CED. The questions become progressively harder, so you can teach it in any order. But if you plan on using the checks, it might be best to follow the CED. So that is, I think that's probably taken on good authority, that the CED really should be followed if you're going to use the personal progress checks.
Yep, that's my understanding as well.
Yes. Can the PPCs be edited? I don't think so, because they are written by College Board, so they're
right.
They're like the exam in that way. Right.
Correct.
Right. Let's see. I'm trying. Sorry, guys. I will get to sales questions. I promise. I just want to ask all the good stuff of our panelists. I'm sorry.
Sorry. Summer cold. I'm sorry.
Oh, I know. Let's see. So a lot of folks are talking to one another, and that's awesome. Okay, so are the PPCs done online? That's a good question. I assume yes. I assume the PPCs are online.
Oh, I lost you.
Oh, can anybody else hear me?
I can hear you.
I can't.
Oh, okay.
Oh, now I can. Now I can hear you.
I can hear
Okay,
you.
sorry. So yes, so the PPCs are online. So perfect. Thank you. So I have a question about the table grading format for the FRQs. Are they table graded or teacher graded? Liz, I know you can answer that question incredibly thoroughly.
You mean
FRQ,
FRQs at the exam?
that is what the question appears to be. Table grading format for FRQs, are they teacher graded?
They're graded by readers. Readers are made up of high school teachers and college professors.
Right.
And all the questions are graded by readers.
You don't use artificial intelligence, machine learning to?
No, we don't. I don't. Yeah, we do use table leaders to train readers, and that leadership is also a mix of high school and college teachers that have risen from the reading pool. Mm-hmm.
Right. And they do all sit together and read for 8 hours a day, exams for 8 hours a day. And they are typically assigned a particular question, so they read that one question.
Right. So they just a short while ago read more than 600,000 essays in a week.
Yeah.
That just blows my mind.
Me too.
I know.
Me
Believe
too.
it or not, it's fun. If you're on this call and you want to apply to be a reader, do it, because it's great professional development, and there's no substitute for the networking you make.
Oh, my experience is the people that do that year after year become such good friends from all across the country, and it's kind of reunion time, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely.
It is. And I think too, I've heard from teachers in this discipline and other disciplines that say, if you want to be able to teach your students better, do the reading, that it really helps.
The best professional development.
Okay, so you guys, if you have additional questions for our panelists, please send them in. I'm going to start reviewing some of the just general sales type questions that's been asked and that I can answer aloud while you send in additional questions. Where in Launchpad can the handouts be accessed? So this will be in the resources, right, Heidi? I believe is where we will place these. They will go in resources.
Yep, that's exactly right.
Perfect. Okay, and we can send the address for Launchpad also. If you want to write it down, I can sadly rattle it off the top of my head pretty quickly for you. It is high school, all one word, .bfw pub, all one word, bfwpub.com / Launchpad, all one word, / Myers AP3E. That is the Launchpad for the 3rd edition. Just change out the 2nd edition or the 1st edition if you're using one of the prior AP editions. Okay, so that is that. Let's see, let's go to, Heidi, let's go to one of the slides for the units. And let's take a look at this. Liz, were you referring to the units in the textbook? And yes, so these units, right? So we've got 2 units kind of happening here, right? So the gray unit on the left is from the CED.
Yep.
And the red font is the books unit.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. The gray is
4 sides with the old units. Right.
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. Let's see. We talked about the.
And that, I'm going to add one thing, and that's also in the big picture slide. Also shows the alignment of the AP Myers 3E units to the new 9. Yeah, so it's also there too in another format. If anybody on listening or watching finds this easier, it's all in one place. So you can see new Unit 1 in the blue combines Unit 1 and 2 in the tan.
Right, right. So we had a couple of questions about the 4th edition. When the 4th edition is going to come out. The 4th edition is scheduled to publish following our typical publishing cycle. It would be January of 2020. And will the 4th
2022. 2022.
2022. Oh,
22.
yeah.
Give me a coronary.
I was like, oh.
Sorry.
You know. No stress, Ann or Heidi. Okay, yeah, I am so sorry. And I typed that wrong in there.
Dave and I need to get off the phone and get to work
Right.
if that's, yeah.
I do believe you guys could be ready. We, on the other hand, I'm not entirely sure we could do that. Okay, so will the 4th edition be reorganized to meet the new AP organization? So the 4th edition will be reorganized. Let me say that. The 4th edition will be reorganized to reflect the latest CED at the time, yes. We have not seen the PPCs yet, as we've discussed. All right. So if I read the test specs right, it seems that one of the 2 essay questions will be devoted exclusively to research design. One of the questions on this year's 2019 exam was exclusively research design. Is that a model for us?
Yes. One question is going to be application of concepts in unique situations. The other one is going to be related to research design. And they will both now be 7 points consistent across the board. That's going to affect 2020.
Perfect. Let's see. So when are the PPCs available? They're available August 1st is what College Board has told us. How does one access them? It's our understanding that it's going to be online. And are there safeguards that College Board is putting into place to prevent what happened in the cheating across time zones this year?
College Board has assured everyone there will be, and otherwise we suggest you ask College Board.
Right. I do think that we'll know more probably, well, obviously after August 1st. I anticipate that we'll hear more information as well at AP Annual in July. Let's see, we do have pacing guides for semester-long courses and 1 semester courses. So when we wrap up this call, we will be sending follow-up messages with links to resources for you guys to use. Yes. Scoring criteria was just emailed today, Christopher says. So that's timely. Let's see. The scoring FRQs was put on the website today. Okay. And then, sorry, let me see. There's a lot of questions. I'm teaching AP Psych for the first time this coming fall. We are currently in the process of ordering 3rd edition. Any suggestions on whether we should order the electronic version until the 4th edition comes out in January, trying to be fiscally wise without compromising the students' learning? So that question was based on my terrible response that it's coming out in 2020. It's not coming out in 2020. It's coming out in 2022. I would get the 3rd edition now because the content is the same. Yes. I think that is fiscally wise to go ahead and get the third edition now, because the new edition isn't coming for another 2 years. Let's see. Sorry, lots more questions. Let me jump down here. What are your thoughts? Oh, this is a fun one. Let's open this can of worms. What are your thoughts on the removal of hypnosis?
On the what? Ask that again.
What are your thoughts on the removal of hypnosis? Everyone sits silently with Cheshire grins.
I would just say I have occasionally been a little bewildered by what does not appear as core material. And I would think an understanding of hypnosis is something that an educated person should have. For Nathan and me in authoring the book, that is one of our criteria in deciding what to include. Is this something an educated person needs to know? And I would think, yes. I would think even more that about the whole area of health psychology and the application of psychology to health and to students' own health. That's the one that really surprises me that it hasn't been part of the core content.
Right. Especially with recent, discussions about health disparity in both in the United States and abroad. I agree with that. I think, one thing that this showed me when I heard about the removal of hypnosis is how dynamic psychology is and how young of a discipline we are, and how, if you were in, if you opened up a journal in the 1970s or the 1980s and you read an article in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology, you would often see a hypnosis article. It was a very, very big area of research, and then it just, like some topics in social psychology and in other areas of psychology, it just kind of died. And there are some people who are doing it. There are some people who are doing great work with it, but it's not what it used to be. And so I can understand their perspective. At the same time, I want to reiterate what Dave was talking about, in that I think part of our teaching mission is to give students a scientific understanding of themselves, their fellows, and society. And I think that at some point in their lives, they'll probably hear about hypnosis, or they might drive by a hypnosis store. And it would be great, from my perspective, for them to know about the history about it, the science behind it, and a little bit more than what they might get off of a podcast. And so, not to speak poorly of podcasts, but that's just kind of what I thought about it. So it's a long answer, but I'm a college professor. That's what I'm prone to give.
It's an excellent answer. It's an excellent answer, Nathan, and I completely agree with what Nathan has just said. It seems to me that we have at least three obligations as your authors. One is to present an authentic survey of the entirety of psychological science, all its big ideas. But even more important than teaching psychology is teaching to students' own lives what's relevant about psychological science that's going to connect with their interests, their values, their life choices, and so forth. And so we always have the human user on the other side. And we also want to teach critical thinking. We want to help people think smarter about all the information they're going to be encountering pertinent to psychology and human life. And so those are three of our overarching goals. And Nathan has spoken to them exactly right, I think.
Thank you.
And that's why what we do as authors, what you do as teachers of this humanly significant discipline, is really, really, really important.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, so
all right.
Liz, sorry.
Oh no, any other questions?
Yeah, there's a question about the skills that have been added. Someone asked, Laura asked, can you tell us more about the skills that have been added?
Can we go back to that slide?
Yes. There we
Here
go.
are the skills that have been added. There are 3 categories. Here they are. I don't have, trying to think of my, again, say out loud answer. I don't have a lot more to say about these any more than the descriptions there. You can see in category 1, define or apply concepts, explain behavior in an authentic context, apply theories and perspectives in an authentic context. These are skills that I believe that transcend every unit, and this is what we've been doing, right? This is what AP psychology teachers have been doing, and what AP test writers have been doing, is trying to get students to be able to use these use the concepts, terms in an authentic context. Teasing apart the other 2, I think the data analysis one, there's been more questions on the exam lately about graphing. If you remember the first graph one a few years back, graphing, interpreting graphs, interpreting data, and then analyzing a research study. So here's a little scenario of a research study and analyzing it. When the questions are being written, they are multiple choice or free response. They're going to be coded into these things. So I think that teachers will get a much better idea about how those skills are going to live in real life when you see the first personal progress check and see how they're coded. Like, really, I don't have a lot more to say unless the question is asking something more specific than what's there.
Right. Laura then says, so it's basically just meeting the same objectives and answering the research-based FRQs.
Meeting the same objectives. Repeat that again.
It's basically just meeting the same objectives in answering the research-based FRQs. And Kristen, thank you, Kristen, for helping me with a lot of these answers.
Hi, Kristen.
Hi, Kristen. I know. AP teachers have been teaching these skills all along. So you've been teaching these skills. Application to real life scenarios, interpreting data, and critiquing studies.
Yes, that's exactly, thank you. That's exactly what I'm trying to say, is that these are things that have always been done, now just teased apart, so the questions are going to be coded that way.
Exactly.
And Janie, if I could just add one thing. So if any of you on the call, any of the teachers also teach other social studies disciplines, in some of the other course areas, these skills have been teased out, and the various skills have been teased out in much greater detail. And so if you've been looking at a course and exam description for another social studies discipline, you'll notice that these are much, more Spartan in a sense than what you see in some other disciplines. But I think, as Liz and Kristen and others noted, these are the skills you would expect to teach and always have been. But there's a little bit perhaps less focus on them than on some other disciplines.
Right.
And I think you could do them in any unit. I think these are, like I said, more of the, maybe the more obvious ones, but I think teachers have been doing this in every unit forever.
And there's another question too about how the AP tests are going to be, the test questions will be coded. Are they going to be coded to content and skill, or content, unit, or skill? My
understanding is that there'll be content both. At least the personal progress checks, but somebody online might know better than me and can chime in there, but my understanding is and.
Right, that's my understanding too. And that's definitely how it's done in the other social studies disciplines. Let's see, we also had another answer from Kristen on another question regarding how the PPCs are scored. They are scored, multiple choice is scored online, and the FRQs are teacher scored. So that is that answer. Will the PPCs be similar to actual exam questions?
My understanding is yes.
All right. Perfect.
And so in sort of way that makes, for those of you who are using those questions that Nathan talked about, like going through, like, do you want to change or not? That's one of the benefits I would see of the PPCs. Not only are they formative, but they would be practice for the students.
Exactly.
And we also know, as we emphasize, that practice answering questions is a great way to learn and remember.
Exactly. Exactly. All
Yeah, I
right.
think that's the that's the one thing that continually surprises me when I teach is how much the students love being quizzed and how much it helps them. But it is far and away the thing that they enjoy the most. It gives them, I mean, and it makes sense. We know that from what we know about learning and also about the testing effect, how the best way to get better at doing something is to repetitively test yourself over the material. So I couldn't agree more.
Practice. Yep. Let's see. So this is a good question. Are there any resources for study skills that are based on brain science that we can teach or offer our AP Psych students to better help them understand and prepare?
Hmm.
So I will say about if you're using this book and you're using the new teacher's edition, that something that is really important to me in my practice as the director for the Center for Advancement of Teaching is that we do evidence-based pedagogy and evidence-based practices. So in there, you'll notice that it's organized a little differently. Every unit and module starts with activating prior knowledge, making it meaningful. There's assess as you goes for formative assessment. So those kind of things are built in. As far as so I think you as a teacher can build in activities for that. But as far as having students do that, I think introducing students to this knowledge, whether it's through a book like Make It Stick, or which is kind of a layperson book, or you summarizing the book How Learning Works, one of my favorite books for pedagogy, summarizing that for them so that they start to learn that is really helpful. I don't know if that's what you were getting at in that question, but.
Wonderful. Wonderful. So we have a question about the test bank. Is the test bank still completely relevant? And that answer is, I'm waiting for Anne to also.
And so, yeah, sorry, I was writing, but I'll just say it aloud. Yeah.
Okay.
What I would say is, I think that my sense of this from looking at all these different courses now that are doing the same thing is that the PPCs are wonderful at the unit level in terms of giving you that kind of AP prep in a sense and checking your unit level mastery. But if you as a teacher give quizzes more frequently, or if you want to give, smaller test quizzes for mastery after a smaller number of modules or units. I mean, some of these, as we're saying, is like you don't want to do any assessment for 18, 20 days. That might be a long time and a lot of content. So I think your test bank is still going to be extremely valuable to help you and assess daily mastery of ideas and concepts using it in smaller chunks. The PPCs, can be extremely helpful at the bigger level at a sort of AP style prep, but they still have to learn the content. So I think the tools together will be extraordinarily helpful.
Yes, and the test bank that goes with the Myers book is, I mean, Liz, you reviewed the weights and the exam. The exam's not really changing. So all of the test items within are still completely relevant.
Right.
Perfect. Perfect. Will any of those questions be used by the College Board for review online? The questions within the test bank? We don't think so. The College Board has commissioned individuals to write the questions for the PPCs, and so I doubt that they would come from any publisher test bank. I could be wrong, but I doubt, because there's copyrights and things like that. Okay, so we are now at 6:30. If I didn't answer your question, we will answer your question completely and thoroughly in follow-up with you, okay? I want to be sure that we get to all of these questions because some of them were really good questions, but I wanted to be sure that we gave our panelists time to answer any of the, especially content-related questions. So thank you everyone for attending. Thank you panelists for presenting. We really appreciate you. And good luck everyone.
And Janie,
Go ahead.
and also I hope that, I can speak for myself that I hope that this is just the first conversation that we can have with the attendees. So if they ever have a question or a comment about the content, or if a student has a question, they should, I mean, they're part of our team. And so we want to help them in any way possible. And honestly, like as Dave was mentioning, there is nothing better than opening up my email and having a letter from a student or from an instructor. Dave and I just got one a couple of days ago that asked us, who is in charge of the funny puns in your book? Was that you, Dave, or was that you, Nathan? Like who is on pun duty? And I said, we're both guilty as charged. And so it could be that sort of stuff, but also I can tell you that we read everything, and we try to be very open-minded about everything that we get. And so we've had students and instructors write to us, and they with concerns that we weren't covering certain material that they thought was left out. We were covering other material in a way that they had some thoughts about, and that we are just as happy to receive that email as the one that asked us about who's in charge of the puns, and so everything in between. So
thank you, definitely. Well, and Liz and Dave, do you have any parting words also?
No, I'll just say what I said before, and that is how greatly honored we are to be able to assist your teaching, and the three of us do regard ourselves as your teaching assistants. So thank you for that privilege, and as Nathan has said, don't ever hesitate to be in touch.
Yep, and I would just say ditto to all that. I totally agree, and especially with the my first time on the Teachers Edition, as you all are using that, and you have any feedback, comments, suggestions, please shoot them my way. I look forward. I love thinking and talking about teaching, so I would love to get that. And again, lovely working with those guys.
So thank you all.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. Good night.
Let's see, Heidi, do we have the high school marketing email on the last slide? Were we able to add that? If not, that's okay. Oh, there we go. So if anyone has questions, additional comments, please send it to us at hsmarketing@bfwpub.com. Thank you so much, and it'll be a few moments while I figure out how to turn this off.
All right.
Thanks, everybody. Bye, y'all.